my name is Mara, and welcome to Books Like Whoa. So today I wasn't planning on filming, but it's gross out, so all of my other plans kind of didn't sound as appealing to me, so I'm gonna try to crank some shit out today. So we'll see how I'm doing by the end of this. Today I wanted to talk about some of my favorite books about books. So if you're anything like me, not only do you love reading, you also love reading about reading. So whether this is kind of more scholarly explorations of literary texts or more kind of memoir-ish reflections on one's reading life, I love reading about reading. It's one of my favorite genres of books, and I have a lot of books about books. So I've broken this up into a few different kind of subcategories of books about books. I'm not going to get into too much memoirs about books, though that certainly is kind of a genre unto itself. And I've read a lot of books that are like that, but they don't tend to be my favorite books about books. I tend to think of those more as strictly memoirs and kind of think of them and shelve them accordingly. So the first of the subgenres that I want to talk about are books about specific genres of books. And the ones that I'm going to feature talk about two genres in particular, mystery and romance. So first for the mystery, I think Stephen King's Danse Macabre, just sort of about horror / mystery, is certainly a classic of the books about books genre that I would recommend to anybody who is interested in either Stephen King or the horror / mystery genre. And then the other one is P.D. James's Talking About Detective Fiction. This is an excellent exploration from one of the best-selling mystery writers of all time that reflects on the genre itself. And it's a quick read, it's not too weighty, but I think if you're interested in reading mysteries, this is something that you would find very entertaining. And then for books specifically about the romance genre, I actually have a number of these because this was a huge part of my kind of master's thesis major paper thing, but two that were particularly helpful or fun to me. The first one is Romancing God. This is specifically looking at Christian romantic fiction, which are sometimes called bonnet rippers. And if you've never encountered one of these in the wild, they are interesting. And I essentially spent my master's kind of dissecting why are they a thing. So this was a very important kind of sociological look at why these types of books exist. And a more fun look at the romance genre is Beyond Heaving Bosoms by Sarah Wendell and Candy Tan, I believe. Yeah. Candy Tan. If you enjoy romance at all and you've never been to the blog Smart Bitches Trashy Books, I highly recommend it. It is really a very fun blog that has a lot of different kind of features that it has on a recurring basis, very honest reviews, which was, when it first started, somewhat unique to the genre. And really, the bottom line is just very good community. There's a great group of readership, and if you follow this blog for any length of time, you will quickly recognize a lot of the folks who hang out in the comments section. So this is a fun look at the romance genre as a whole from the perspective of avid readers and sort of the moderators of one of the most important communities in that genre. Next, I have a few books that I would put into kind of a more scholarly or academic or literary criticism type category of books about books. So these aren't going to be light reads necessarily, but they are ones that I've either found very helpful or just enjoyable. So the first one is The English Novel and Introduction from Terry Eagleton. This is a very dry book. I essentially would describe this as my go-to reference for if I ever needed to cite somebody authoritative about a 19th century British author. Again, I wouldn't say this is a great page turner, but I have found this to be a very helpful reference kind of manual on my shelves over the years. Next is The Things That Matter by Edward Mendelson, I believe. And this basically is an interesting approach to literary criticism. He's taken 7 classic novels and used them to examine various stages of kind of human experience or human life. So I think he talks about Middlemarch and Jane Eyre and Virginia Woolf, people like that in here. And yeah, this is just honestly one of my favorite pieces of literary criticism, probably because it has a slightly different kind of bent on looking at these books, but I found this to be an enjoyable read, and again, something that I've referenced from time to time when talking about one of the novels that he dissects in here. And finally, I have a classic of feminist literary criticism here called The Madwoman in the Attic, which is, of course, a reference to Jane Eyre, so I'm clearly predisposed to to maybe enjoying this, but this really just is a classic work of feminist criticism on classic text of the English canon. It was a very groundbreaking and unique perspective at the time that I think is pretty well incorporated now into a lot of college classrooms. But yeah, I think it's a seminal work, and I've enjoyed reading it and referencing it over the years. So the next subgenre is books that are sort of listicle books, so books compiling lists of books. And I have a few of these, but there are two that I go to more than any other. The first one is Book Lust by Nancy Pearl, who I believe is a librarian. This is a kind of classic of this listicle genre, and I don't always love the book she recommends, to be honest. I'm not sure that my taste wholly aligns with hers, but I do find this to be kind of a fun thing to peruse through. And over the years, I've always liked to go through every, 18 months or so and check off any books that I have actually read from this book. So it's sort of a fun kind of reading diary as well. And I would say my favorite listicle type book is this one, which is 1001 Books for Every Mood. I think that it does a very nice job of covering a ton of different genres, again, a ton of different moods based on the title. And I like to use this book if I'm kind of stuck, like nothing sounds good for me to read. Sometimes I'll go through here and see if I can get any inspiration to kind of jog me into thinking, oh yeah, that does sound like it might be something fun to read, or oh, I have a book like that sounds like it might be good. So 1001 Books for Every Mood. And finally, I'm gonna cap things off with what is really my favorite book about books, which is Francine Prose's Reading Like a Writer. And Francine Prose is just her last name is Prose, and that's kind of funny because she is a great prose writer. She has a lovely style. She is a novelist, and I guess you could think of this as a book about writing. Maybe I'll also include it in my books about writing video, but I just love the way she talks about books. This gave me a lot of inspiration of books to try reading. And I remember when I first read this, it was very transformative to the way that I engaged with novels of all types. And so Reading Like a Writer is probably my favorite book about books of all time. So that is my list of books about books that I love. Like I said, I have a lot of these, and I'm sure you do too. So if there's any that I haven't included in this list, let me know in the comments. Maybe I haven't read it and maybe I should pick it up. As always, thank you so much for watching. Follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. But otherwise, until next time, I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.